my name is Jared Tomlinson. I'm an ISA board-certified master arborist. I'm also a qualified tree risk assessor. I'm not just puffing myself up here. These certifications are actually going to be useful for some of the recommendations that I'm going to give you later. I'm also a member of the American Society of Consulting Arborists, and that's an organization that's dedicated to turning chainsaw-wielding monkeys like me into respectable consultants through training in standards of professional practice, forensics, technical report writing, and the legal aspects of consulting. So I run a small consulting practice, and I specialize primarily in tree inventories and protection plans for development projects. And as Chris mentioned, for the last couple years, I've been working closely with Toronto Standard. So the title of my presentation is Dealing with Trees. Now that title is way too broad. Dealing with trees is a huge topic, and it wouldn't be possible even to scratch the surface in just 10 minutes. So my focus is going to be narrower than the title suggests. At last year's summit, most of the people in attendance, or at least most of the people that I talked to, were really interested in the multiplex, laneway suite, garden suite space. So I'm just going to be focusing on the constraints that trees place on multiplex, laneway suite, and garden suite development, specifically in Toronto. Now, a lot of what I'm saying is going to be old news to many of the more seasoned attendees in the room. But if you haven't yet had the distinct pleasure of dealing with Toronto urban forestry, and you're looking to break into the space, my hope is that I can spare you a little bit of unnecessary pain. A necessary disclaimer. So in a moment, I'm going to start citing some bylaws, but I am not a lawyer. I'm neither competent nor licensed to apply legal principles and judgments to your specific circumstances, and I cannot speak to your rights or responsibilities with respect to trees. Nothing I say should be construed as legal advice. So if nothing I say should be construed as legal advice, why am I going to be citing bylaws? Because those bylaws tell us what direction City Council has given to urban forestry with respect to these EHON typologies. And having been involved in hundreds of applications, I can tell you from experience that urban forestry is following the directions that Council has been giving to it, for better or for worse. In many cases, for worse, in my opinion. More on that in a moment. So I'm going to be retreading some familiar ground here, but with a bit of a different lens. As we all know, in June 2018, Toronto City Council adopted Official Plan Amendment 403. That amendment allowed for laneway suite development within the Toronto East York district, and the allowance became citywide in 2019. The bylaw by which they adopted this official plan amendment reads, "Development of laneway suites should not result in the injury or removal of a healthy tree protected under the applicable chapters of the Toronto Municipal Code." Should not. Well, that seems to imply some discretion, but in my experience, urban forestry has very much treated that as shall not. So, don't expect to get a permit to remove or significantly injure a healthy bylaw-protected tree to accommodate a laneway suite. More familiar ground. Official Plan Amendment 554 passed in 2022, allowing for garden suite development citywide. The bylaw by which they passed the amendment once again reads, "Development of garden suites should not result in the injury or removal of a healthy tree protected under the applicable chapters of the Toronto Municipal Code." How do you think that urban forestry has been interpreting should not? Do they mean it? Shall not. That's my experience. If someone else has had a different experience, please talk to me after. The big one. In May 2023, Toronto City Council adopted Official Plan Amendment 649. The bylaw by which they adopted the amendment reads, "Development of multiplexes should not result in the injury or removal of a healthy tree protected under the applicable chapters of the Toronto Municipal Code. Last time, how do you think they've been treating should not? Shall not. Say it. So this one, honestly, if I can set aside the facts and talk about what I think about it, this one really, really rubs me the wrong way. Urban forestry frequently issues permits to remove healthy, mature trees to accommodate single-family dwellings. In fact, I have never been involved in an application where they did not. So, are you proposing an as-of-right single-family dwelling? Does it conflict with a healthy, mature tree? You're probably going to get the permit. No problem. Well, try proposing an as-of-right fourplex on the exact same site. You probably will not get that permit. Now, I'm not sure what City Council's intention was here. Maybe there are people in this room who have kind of a peek behind the curtain of what the thinking was. But irrespective of intention, what this has created is an urban forestry policy framework that continues to privilege the housing that very wealthy people can afford over the kind of intensification that the city needs. So, a couple of recommendations, which might seem a little bit self-serving. You should involve a consulting arborist in your project, and you should involve a consulting arborist early. I think not only should you involve an arborist in the design phase, you should probably involve an arborist in your acquisitions decisions. Say you're interested in a property in Toronto. You want to buy it and construct a fourplex plus a laneway suite or a garden suite. But there are trees, and not just trees that can be designed around, trees that would need to be removed. You need to know whether or not those trees are healthy. If they are healthy, maybe you want to swipe left. It's not worth the risk. But if they're not, maybe that's a risk that you want to take. And please, do not fall into the trap of calling someone who's just going to put a rubber stamp on what you want to be true about this property. A hired gun's opinion is not an expert opinion, and it will not survive scrutiny. Hire someone who's going to give you the bad news. That person is going to be more valuable to you in the long run. And this is where those qualifications come in that I laid out at the beginning. Look for a board-certified master arborist and or a registered consulting arborist with the American Society of Consulting Arborists. Don't just look for a tree care company that advertises consulting services on their website. Now, say you've now bought the property and you need to design around healthy trees. Well, call that arborist that you talked to during the acquisitions decision back. You're eventually going to need the arborist to prepare the tree inventory and protection plan, so why not retain the arborist early, have the arborist prepare a constraint analysis for your design team. Might save you a lot of unnecessary pain down the road. So, and with that, my time is up. I did pretty good, a minute left. If you want to talk to an arborist, I'll be up here again in a few minutes for the Q&A. And my friend and colleague Brent Hawking, who's also a board-certified master arborist, is here as well. So search out one of us and chat with us, and happy to talk and give you our cards. Thank you.